And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa CIB, proud sponsor of the SARA Rail Conference 2025, powering progress, connecting economies. Good evening, I'm Stephen Grootes, 9 minutes after 6. Welcome to the Friday edition of The Money Show. I don't know if perhaps one of our producers is thinking that you maybe are a little cleverer than you've been for a while. Maybe it's been a sort of clever week or something. Maybe he's celebrating gold, but he's done twice the number of questions for the Friday Biz Blitz. So clearly we're going to need together, all of us, a lot of brains to get through it from around, let's call it sort of 10 to 7. Looking forward to that. You know the numbers on 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. We'll speak to Neal Froneman in just a minute. He is still sort of the CEO at Sibanye-Stillwater, but he's also looking at the issue around the Formula One, and he seems to be suggesting that actually it should go to Cape Town. It's kind of at odds with Cabinet because they said today it should be in Joburg, but we'll hear from him in just a moment. Giorgio Armani passing away late yesterday, the fashion designer, and you kind of know you've made it when you're just a surname. You know, when you're just one word. The sort of typical example was probably, you know, Madonna. But there are plenty of South African examples, you know, Zuma, Ramaphosa, Mbeki, just a couple. Motsepe, who was in the news today. But when you're Armani, you're kind of a somebody. We'll hear from David Tlale around how he feels about his legacy. And I think we can safely say that Giorgio Armani really did play a big role in fashion, what we conceive, what we think of as sort of beautiful. We'll speak also about the SWIFT system, still concerns about whether or not the Americans could kick us out. And then Norman Goodfellow's being signed to Fine Wine Fellow, the organization. And we'll just sort of talk a little bit about the business of fine wines and where things are going. Patrice Motsepe today was asked, sort of almost guaranteed, are you going to run for the position of president? Are you available? Would you accept a nomination? And from what I understand, he said no. And look, it's easy to say this now, but it always seemed to me incredibly unlikely that he would say yes. I mean, would you, as a sort of very, very wealthy, done incredibly well for yourself, a generationally wealthy person with, I presume, still fights to have and things to do with your money, would you give all of that up to enter politics? Maybe he asked the guy before him, you know, his brother-in-law. Your views, 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567. Voice notes tonight as well on 072 702 1702.
The Money Show
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, earlier today, government confirming it was backing the bid for South Africa to host a Grand Prix at Kyalami in 2 years' time. The bid endorsed by the Sports Minister, Gayton McKenzie. And you'll remember the plans to upgrade Kyalami, already approved by the F1 Federation. But now the outgoing CEO at Sibanye, Neal Froneman, saying he wants to lead an effort to have the Grand Prix in Cape Town instead. Neal, good evening. I really do appreciate the time. Thank you. So there are already plans to go to Kyalami. Why do you think Cape Town would be better?
Yes, good evening, Stephen and listeners. You know, Kyalami is a wonderful track, and I suppose the first thing I should say is it's very pleasing that that Cabinet and government support the concept of Formula One coming to South Africa, and in my view, it's something that's got to be done in the national interest. So that to me is very positive. Our view is that Kyalami, being a great track, being a historical track, is just in the wrong place. A lot of Formula One fans are going to come from outside of South Africa. And I just think that Johannesburg is not a favored destination. Cape Town has a high attraction for foreigners and tourists. Both events, whether they're held in Johannesburg or Cape Town, will create socio-economic growth. I mean, that goes without saying. But the other thing is that Formula One is no longer just a race. It's a catalyst for entertainment and a spectacle. And modern tracks today, as you would see if you look at the Formula One races in the Middle East, are entertainment spectacles, and they are theme parks. You have condos built into racetracks at places like Silverstone. They amphitheaters where entertainers such as Taylor Swift and Beyonce, all linked into the Liberty Media Group, come and perform. So it's not just a once a year race, or even twice a year if you include MotoGP. And Cape Town and a new racetrack, a new complex, just seems to be the better option. Now, I know everyone will be saying, but you already have a racetrack, that must be worth a lot. Actually, in the big scheme of things, it's not a big difference in price. We also have a FIA-approved Formula One track. Of course, it's still got to be built. And so there's many variables to this, but I just, we think Cape Town's the right place, and we'll continue developing our project for that. And having a Formula One race at Kyalami for the next 3 years is absolutely fine. We wish those organizers the best, but if you want a sustainable long-term solution, and I'm talking for 10, 20, maybe even 30 years, it's got to be Cape Town in our view.
You say we. Are you working with a particular group of people? Are you able to tell us who they are?
Yes. So initially, we at a very, I think it must be well known, Stephen, we at a very early stage. The group that I'm working with actually asked me to lead their initiative a few weeks back, as they became aware of my retirement from Sibanye. One of the partners is Bobby Hartsleaf, who is the last South African to actually run a Formula One Grand Prix in South Africa, and he ran the last 5 at Kyalami. He previously owned Kyalami as well. Bobby also built Pakisa and brought the last 6 MotoGP events to South Africa. So we have a person who knows how to organize and start a Formula One race or a MotoGP race at 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon. We have that experience in our consortium. Of course, we're happy to share skills if Kyalami becomes the venue that actually is successful, even if it's for 3 years. Our other partner is a real estate developer in Dallas that actually developed these plans. Unfortunately, they weren't accepted by the residents in Dallas, and that's what I mean. We have already an FIA-approved plan. So those are my key partners. We are busy building out the skills base. That'll take a few months. We need more financial skills. We need more commercial skills to come into our group. Perhaps even real estate development, local South African real estate development. So we're very mindful of what's required, and it's small steps. We've got significant interest from corporate South Africa. We're a group that is known to do what we say. So I think we have credibility and basic knowledge already.
There will be, whenever you talk about taking a Formula One to a new sort of city, immediately there will be someone who will say, well, let's do what it's like in Monaco and have street racing. I realize Monaco is usually the most boring Grand Prix of the year. I imagine in Cape Town that's a bit of a non-starter, is it?
Yeah, look, there have been Formula E racing on the streets of Cape Town. It's not inconceivable to think of a Formula One race in Cape Town, but you don't get to that bigger complex of entertainment where you have amphitheaters. I mean, the The convention center in Cape Town is fully booked. We can build medical facilities. We can build training facilities in the northern side of Cape Town as part of the urban growth. Look, I think those are second prize solutions. I think the first prize it requires a big investment, and I've likened it to, there's a lot of capital up front. It's like building a gold mine. And then over the next 10, 20, maybe even 30 years, if we do it properly, you extract the gold and you get the returns. But no, we're not driving a street race.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I really appreciate it. Neal Froneman is the outgoing CA at Sibanye-Stillwater. 19 minutes after 6.
7:02.
7:02.
Stephen is on X.
At Stephen Grootes.
Confirmation led yesterday of the death of the fashion designer Giorgio Armani, someone who's really revolutionized fashion in a way very few have. David Tlale is the owner and fashion designer at David Tlale Designs. David, good evening. Just the name Armani probably tells you all you need to know about the influence of Giorgio Armani.
Good evening, Stephen. Thank you for having me on this program. Giorgio Armani has been like an icon from early days when we were still in fashion school. Even prior to that, someone who's like an amazing pioneer of fashion, and someone who has just like stood his ground. And the most amazing thing that he worked until his very last days. The only time that he couldn't continue was like the previous couture collections, that he couldn't take his last bow because of illness and also, age, frailness. But the impact that he's had in the industry, and also in my personal journey, is learning to stand your ground and develop a brand that can be globally made available and consumed, and not only in terms of just like a fashion brand or clothing brand. It was a lifestyle brand. From Armani Cafe, Armani Hotels, to a diffusion line, which is Armani Exchange and Casa Armani. So, from him, you can just learn as a brand what you're capable of achieving and doing while you're still here on earth. And I think more than anything else is, him mentoring and appreciating new talent, like an amazing designer who's currently based in Milan, Stella Jean, who was mentored by Armani, and now she is a global force, who actually designed the uniform for the Olympics for the country, in Haiti, the Haitian group. So, you can actually learn quite a lot. And for us as an industry, I don't think it's a loss. We celebrate his life, because the impact that he's had is actually, we can experience it, we see it, we can learn and grow from that journey.
Is it right to say, fashion can seem to me, and I'm a complete outsider, as you know, David, can seem to me to be about trends. Is it right to say he was not someone who followed a trend? He maybe set trends. He did his own thing.
No, he did not follow trends. There's one thing I like about Armani. Color blocking would be in and out. Armani will always stand his ground. He will always follow his signature, because over the years he's built a following. And from the couture, which is the Imperial collections, the Armani Exchange, and also the ready-to-wear, he's never followed trends. The only thing that he actually, I think, played around is the evolution of textiles and how he fused the latest technology into his collections. But his couture, from a mile away, you can tell that was an Armani, and which is really, really amazing. And also, as designers, even upcoming designers, we can all learn from him that trends are there, to give us insight of what's coming. But when you know what you stand for, you don't need to follow such.
Thank you very much indeed. David Tlale is the owner and fashion designer at David Tlale Designs, paying tribute there to Giorgio Armani.
The Money Show. Explainer.
Well, one of the difficulties government is having around dealing with the Trump administration is it's difficult to know what will happen. And there's still persistent speculation that there may be a move to remove South Africa from the SWIFT banking system. Harry Scherzer is the CEO of Future Forex. Harry, good evening. If that does happen, what other options are there for us to try and move money around?
Good evening, Stephen. Great to be on. Well, let's take one step back and say, although there was a lot of speculation that this may happen, it's been largely ruled out. What's actually happening is that the U.S. are looking at sanctioning certain politicians from the ANC who haven't been making friends with the U.S. Rather than the country as a whole. So it doesn't look like there's going to be any impact on South Africa as a whole or South African businesses unless those businesses were tied to those individuals. But in terms of what do we do from there? Well, it would be a really tricky situation. We've seen what's happened in Russia, Iran, and others that have been sanctioned from the SWIFT system. And yeah, it's something that really wouldn't be good for our GDP. It wouldn't be good for our economic growth. And luckily, it's seeming unlikely to actually happen.
I mean, there are two things that sort of come to mind immediately. The one is that the whole point of SWIFT is to kind of have a global system. So, okay, if everyone who the US doesn't like gets kicked out, well, what is it? And then it would also push us, and there is actually a Russian equivalent. We would probably, I mean, even people who may not like Russia in South Africa, there are plenty of them, might just think, well, there's no other option, or the Chinese system. I mean, it would, I suppose, be counterproductive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing I'll say is it's absolutely amazing how much power the US have here. The fact that they can decide we want to kick South Africa off the SWIFT system. And while they can't kick South Africa off the SWIFT system entirely, they can avoid or stop South Africa from making USD payments on the SWIFT system, which is pretty much the global currency. So it would be very debilitating to us. And I guess this is one of the concerns in the world at the moment, is how much reliance there is on America. And that's why the BRICS nations and others are looking at other currencies to almost stop America from being this global superpower, which we all rely on. So there's this real balance in power, which is, it's like a power struggle between Trump, who's trying to say everyone must use the dollar, everyone must use the US, and the East, or the non-West, who are basically saying, no, we don't want to rely on you. We don't agree with your policies. Instead of that, we'd like to make our own. But then Trump uses the bullying tactic to say, well, if you try use another currency, we're going to impose even bigger tariffs on you. So it's a real interesting time in the world at the moment with some serious power struggles.
Living in interesting times, indeed. Harry Scherzer, thanks very much indeed. CEO at Future Forex, 26 minutes after 6.
The Money Show.
The Markets.
Patrick Matidi is head of multi-asset strategies at Alawani Capital Partners. Patrick, good evening. Really appreciate the time tonight. So yesterday, Telkom's share price up 13%. That Bloomberg report that MTN wanted to buy them. And today, it seemed to me from Ralph Mapita, the MTN CEO, quite a solid no.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and thanks for having me. I think you asked the question maybe a few weeks back. It would have been a resounding yes. But I think what has since come up, which perhaps confirms, Ralph's response yesterday, is this DOJ investigation into MTN in terms of their activities, in the Middle East and all the other countries where I guess they've been sanctioned by the U.S. So that investigation, unfortunately, will take a bit of time to conclude. But also, based on what we've seen elsewhere, should they be found to have, either aided or abetted, any terrorism or any of the charges being put forward in terms of areas for investigation, the fines could be massive, right? And that kitty needs to be put aside in case it happens. And therefore, we don't think it's likely that, you can have that investigation on the one hand and then pursue a corporate action on the other, which, again, if you look at the history of South Africa, such corporate tie-ups could also take a while and therefore, draw on resources and likely side-focus management from the core business.
It's a really interesting example of a company which strongly and sometimes angrily denies wrongdoing, having to basically focus on that to the consequence where they can't do something they may want to do.
Yeah, and I think that the real sad thing is, that they really can't get out of those countries. They've been trying, by all means over the last couple of years. One, there's no buyer. And secondly, the rules, in country are very, very tricky in terms of navigating and exiting. So, I do feel sorry for them in a way, because initially when they got in, it was part of a growth strategy. It made a lot of sense, but unfortunately they kind of picked the wrong countries. And now a U-turn, is pretty much non-existent. You kind of need to just, to just keep responding to all these queries coming through.
African Rainbow Minerals, quite a sharp decrease in earnings. It seems that the price of thermal coal hit them quite hard.
Yeah, I think they struggle with thermal coal prices, but also iron ore prices. They have not been able to fetch, sort of an export equivalent. And also, I think they have a problem child, within the complex, which is one of the mines, Bokoni, where the costs are going the wrong way. This is what they're able to get, from a revenue point of view. So I think, thankfully, they kind of said they will mothball it and hopefully try and focus on the core operations. And hopefully this time around, given what the commodity prices have done, hopefully they also do start to participate in that upswing.
And then the gold price. It's extraordinary how quickly it's going from record to record. We've gone through sort of $3,500. Suddenly we're very nearly $3,600 in less than a week.
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of, two key themes that keep on supporting it. On the one hand, you've got central bank buying that is still ongoing in an effort to diversify away from the dollar. And then I think the second one is geopolitics. The photo op, between the three guys who are against Trump, so to speak. I think that also spooked a bit of fear into the market, and so the flight to safety is benefiting the gold price.
I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. Big events in Beijing today. Patrick Matidi, thank you very much indeed. Really do appreciate the time. Head of multi-asset strategies at Alawani Capital Partners.
702.
702.
Stephen is on the Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
Well, plenty of things to sort of think about with Giorgio Armani, and I know there'll be plenty of people who can make intelligent comments and suggestions about his influence on style, and I'm, disappointed, and this won't come as a surprise to you to know that I'm not one of them. I know he's around. I know he matters. I know the name is there. I know people who talk about him. I met people who think that he's very important. I think that he is, but I have no idea. Fashion is just not a language that I speak. And I wonder if maybe fashion is a language that you speak, and I know plenty of you speak much better fashion than I. Maybe, actually, this is the kind of person where you start to think a little bit about why we wear what we do. What I do know about the world is the cumulative sort of work of someone like Armani probably has had an influence on what I'm wearing right now, or on a shade of the color of something that I'm wearing right now, in a way in which I don't even think. I suppose the point I'm trying to make is that everything is sort of connected to itself. And when someone is so influential to the point where they can start as a fashion designer and end up basically having all sorts of things named after them, when the surname is all you need to know, well, that can kind of tell you how one thing can have a big impact in so many different directions. Anyway, your thoughts about Giorgio Armani on 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567.
702 with Stephen Grootes.
Email him on stephen@702.co.za.
Just to remind you, the Friday Biz Blitz in a couple of moments, and we have a bumper edition tonight. We actually have 9 questions. So we've had 1 or 2 people get through and answer 4 or 5 questions correctly. This is the first time, insofar as I know, that we've been doing the Friday Biz Blitz. You have a chance to get 9 answers correct in a row. And that might be a good way for you to start the weekend. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
Well, confirmation today. The group Fine Wine Fellow is buying Norman Goodfellows. I think Norman Goodfellows must be one of the most well-known, one of the best-known wine and spirit shops around. Jason McAvoy is the CEO at Norman Goodfellows. Jason, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us on Friday File tonight.
Thank you for having me, Stephen. It's an honor.
Why did you agree to the deal? I mean, is there something going on in the industry that we should all know about?
No, so for me, I've been running the business for close on 5 years, and I've been partners with the Kramers for 17 plus. But I go from having I'll go solid 71 this year, and I think looking for an exit, and I've got my new shareholders are 45, so it's new energy.
Okay. Do you think, if you look at the way the industry is at the moment, and we all remember the disruptions during COVID, but otherwise the kind of industry is a very sort of stable industry, by which I mean you can invest and kind of keep going over a longer term. Do you see any changes coming up that might just affect the kind of trajectory of the fine wine and spirits industry at the moment?
But our business is the retail, but our retail doesn't really compete with the big guys. We destination retail for range and advice, and then we supply restaurants and hotels and pubs and clubs with not only food, not only beverage, but food as well these days. So what we're seeing is a tough economy, but we don't see the industry significantly changing within the space that we operate.
I have a friend, and he, more than one, but a particular friend, and he had a bottle of whiskey that had actually been sort of almost passed down to him from a previous generation. It was at least 30 or 40 years old. And he and I happened to be looking at the empty bottle and thought to ourselves, well, we'll never see it again. And he said, well, he knows where to go and look, and you'll be pleased to know that he found it. How difficult is it to keep such a big stock list, such a big list of stock that maybe someone will buy something or one item of it maybe only once a month, whereas in most other places it'll be, once a week?
If you want to be a retail destination, you've got to have the range. We have over 6,000 SKUs in our Johannesburg warehouse that obviously fills the shops, and 4,000 SKUs in our Cape Town warehouse. That disparity comes from the fact that the Cape Townians, both private and business, like to have a direct relationship with wine farms.
Yes.
But the cost of doing business and being a specialist is having the SKUs.
Okay, so you've really got to keep it, and you've got to keep it where you can get it quite quickly. But you do have to actually have a lot more. You have to have a much wider range than just about everybody else.
Well, otherwise there's no differentiation. And if your plan is to be destination, we've got over 200 champagnes in our retail stores, listed in our retail stores and stocked in our retail stores. If you go to a convenience retailer around the corner, you'd be lucky to find 15 or 20.
Is there still a big focus on premium brands in South Africa? I mean, there were times when, one of the big retailers would kind of have a massive advert for a bottle of whiskey that was 200,000 Rand or something insane. That focus on premium brands, is it still there?
Things are. We for many years we sold more than one 50-year-old every year, and things aren't like that. On the super premium there is certainly a contraction. There's a portion of our market where premium and even super premium carries on, but it's not what it used to be 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
It's interesting. I mean, where does that go? Does that go to the next level?
So there's a concept I heard of this week actually, and I loved it, and I could see it. That in South Africa we like to flex. So if you're drinking, in the context of this conversation was cognac, and they say if you're drinking by yourself or with your wife or your friend, you might have a VS, but if you're having friends over, you'll stretch to the XO because you want to show everyone that you're good to do it. And that people would do that rather than pay off debt. They would leverage up more debt to make sure that they're flexing.
Sure.
So super premium and premium carry on, but maybe more selective occasions.
It's interesting that it happens like that. Price matters in most things. I wonder if it matters as much for you because you have differentiated yourself, and you have quite successfully as Norman Goodfellow. This is sort of a name that many, many people have heard of. Does price maybe matter a little bit less for you than it does for other people because that's not actually what you're competing on?
So on KVI lines, they call it in the industry, so on like a Jameson's, Johnny Walker Black, Hennessy, Verve, Moet, Laurent Perrier, people are very price sensitive. So you have to be competitive. Our aim is to be within 10 Rand on those lines versus our competitors. But when it comes to things that you can't get everywhere, you have a little bit more latitude. But don't get me wrong, the margin in liquor is very small, so there's not a huge amounts to play with.
There's been a lot of sort of issues around trade and concerns around tariffs. Is that going to affect some of the markets that you deal in? I mean, we all know the stories of people who come to South Africa from Europe or from the States and are amazed at how cheap our alcohol is compared to where they are.
So two things to that. Firstly is that I've traveled a lot in the last couple of years, and what I've learned is that our wines are world class, and at the price point that we pay for them are very, very lucky. The value for money we get for our wine is outstanding. The second thing I would say is that the tariffs and what the US tariffs have done for us is has given us opportunity for guys to see our markets as growth markets, and we're getting access to better product, be it food or beverage, getting access to products that we wouldn't have got before because it can't go to America because it's become too expensive.
Young people do seem to be drinking less, and I know people in the wine industry talk a little bit about this. Do you think that will affect you? I mean, then the spirits and wines that you'll be selling, say, in 20 years' time, is that going to, it's a long process that, and things can easily change, and humans have been drinking alcohol, I have no idea how long for, but a long time. But do you think that that's going to make have any kind of impact on you in the longer term?
I think it would be naive to say it wouldn't. What I would say is that the trends are very much in the first world markets and very much in the younger part of that market. Those trends aren't as evident in third world markets or African markets. So it has to come, but I think it would be a lot slower here.
Jason McAvoy, thanks very much indeed. Really appreciate it. CEO of Norman Goodfellows, being bought now by Fine Wine Fellow. And as I say, a name that has been around, Norman Goodfellows, that is, for a very, very long time.
Stephen Grootes
Taking your calls
on 011-883-0702.
Time for the Friday Biz Blitz on The Money Show. We actually have 9 questions for you tonight. If you get through all of them, you can call yourself the champion of the Friday Biz Blitz. And as a result, we do get the sense that just maybe tonight of all nights, you're actually feeling very much on top of your game. So you know the number. You know how the game works. You call us. We put the question to you. If you get it right, we move on to the next question. If you get it wrong, we move on to the next caller. Here we go. First question on the Friday Biz Blitz. Very topical question tonight. XAU is the ticker symbol for which commodity? If you think of XAU, what does it actually mean? What are we talking about if you think of the phrase, or of the letters rather, XAU? 011-883-0702 and 021-446-0567.
The Money Show, Stephen Grootes, is brought to you by ABSA CIB, proud sponsor of the SARA Rail Conference 2025, powering progress, connecting economies.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
Well, first question on the Friday Biz Blitz this evening. XAU is the ticker symbol for which commodity? We have questions 2 around the US magazine Vogue, Blue Label Telecoms, and one of the questions is going to be about a global food giant that was in the news this week. But first question for you on the Friday Biz Blitz on 011-883-0702 and 021-446-0567 is XAU is the ticker symbol for which commodity? And it is a commodity which has been in the news and has been in virtually every business bulletin that I've done this week because of the particular record that it's really been involved in. So XAU is the ticker symbol for which commodity? It's the first question on the Friday Biz Blitz for you this evening. Questions still to come around Vogue, around Blue Label, around a clothing brand, and 1 or 2 of our banks as well, and also a question about Toys R Us. So first question tonight on the Friday Biz Blitz. XAU is the ticker symbol for which commodity? Would be the first question on the Friday Biz Blitz on 011-883-0702 and 021-446-0567. It is, as I say, a commodity that's been really in the news for the last few days and really the last few weeks before that. There's really no other way to describe it. Let's go to Rosebank, I presume, in Johannesburg. Mandla, hello.
Hi, gold.
It is gold, yes. And it's seen as a currency pair, XAU, a USD, so that's dollar, obviously. Okay, second question, here we go. After 35 years, which legendary editor is stepping back from the helm of the US magazine Vogue?
The lady, man.
Mandla.
That lady, man, I've forgotten her name.
Sorry, Mandla. Let's try. Let's go to Dave in Edenvale in Joburg. Dave, the editor stepping back from the helm of Vogue in the US.
Hi, Stephen. It's Anna.
I'm going to give it to you, Dave. It's Anna Wintour. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Wintour.
Blue Label wants to list which telecoms company on the JSE. It's one of the well-known networks. Blue Label wants to list which telecoms company on the JSE, Dave.
Ooh.
Come on, Dave.
Chelsea?
Yes, it is Cell C, Dave. Yes.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Which global food giant sacked its CEO, Laurent Frixe, over an office relationship scandal this week? It's a global food giant. If you drink any instant coffee, you'll know them. They fired their CEO.
Nestle.
Yes, Nestle. Okay. The unique clothing brand is controlled by which JSE retailer? They had their results out this week, but the unique clothing brand, UNIQ, who owns them?
Sure.
Come on, Dave, don't fail me now. The unique clothing brand, Dave, you're going to kick yourself. There's someone who knows you, who can hear you right now going, come on.
Unique clothing brand listing on the JSE.
It's controlled by which retailer that's on the JSE. So which of the big shops, which of the big supermarkets owns Unique?
Unique.
Come on, Dave.
Checkers.
Yes! All right, we got to question number 5. Dave, congratulations. You are the winner of the Friday Biz Blitz on The Money Show this evening. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock.